Hello friends, thanks for joining me today. Today I am doing two collaborations. One is hashtag tag along with us, and it is hosted by Martha Hamilton of Granny's House and also Annie of Annie Creates. This week is the last week of that collaboration, so I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss it. The other collaboration that I'm joining in on today is hosted by Susan Hiles Art, and her collab is Crafty Clusters collab, and everybody's making clusters. And she is using the hashtag Crafty Clusters. So I combined them today because I felt like I could make the clusters and then make a tag. And that way I didn't have to make two separate videos. Both of these collabs come out on the same day. They're both on Wednesdays. And I don't typically like to put two videos out in one day. I know everybody's time is stretched thin, and I'm just so grateful that somebody finds the time to watch one of my videos in a day. Let alone two. So I try to keep it to one, and so that's why I combined the two collaborations. Now for Susan Hiles' collab, she had a theme and it was grungy. So I am making some grungy clusters. And I'm starting out today's video with you watching me work on the clusters, and then in the second part of the video I will go ahead and attach one of the clusters and make a tag for the other collab that is tag along with us. So thank you so much for spending some time with me today. And before I get into telling you exactly what I'm doing here with this paint and paintbrush and all that good stuff, I wanted to tell you something, and I wanted to ask you a question. I purchased a food sensitivity test because I'm having some health issues, and I know that I am sensitive to gluten, but I think I might have developed some additional food sensitivities. However, I'm not positive, so I purchased the test. And I was thinking about making a video of me doing the test and then holding that video until I got the results and then sharing the results. Let me know if that's something that you're curious about and that you would be interested in seeing, because if it is, I will make a video, and if it's not, I'll just do it in my own time, and that'll be that. Alright, so as I mentioned earlier, the theme for the crafty clusters is grungy. So I felt like I just wanted to experiment a little bit with some of my materials and with some of my paint. And it's like a nickel, it's a black nickel color, so it's black, but it's got a lot of silver in it. And so I wanted to use that to kind of grunge up some of the pieces that I'm working with. I am working with some fabric. I am working with some torn book page, some torn music scrapbook paper. I am also working with some fabric paper. So on each one of those things that I just mentioned, I'm going to go ahead and add some of this metallic paint. I'm not being specific and I'm not planning. I'm just kind of playing and having fun. Because it's grungy, you have so much freedom. It really honestly doesn't matter how it looks because it's grungy. So, now there is some paper, there's some wetness on the paper that I'm working on. So you saw me kind of mop it up with my scrapbook paper, and you'll see me do that a couple of times. Like, why let it go to waste? It'll definitely add a grungy effect on whatever I use to clean up that wet area. I hope that makes sense. Now I'm going to go ahead and set those pieces aside, and I'm going to start prepping my little cluster bases. So I grabbed some scrapbook paper, and I'm going to go ahead and cut those into little squares. They're not going to be perfect because we're not worried about that. We're going to be covering most of that base anyway. So I'm not measuring. They don't have to be straight. Just going through and cutting them real quick. You'll notice that I'm using a dark base. It's black, and then one of them is polka dot, and that's because it's grungy, so I'm kind of trying to stick with darker colors. So I received, as a happy mail, this paper that I'm tearing here, and it's got this natural look to it, and it looks like old newspaper or old advertisement, and I think it is perfect for this grungy look. I'm tearing, not cutting, because I want the roughness of the torn paper. I started going around the edges with my marker here, but then it didn't give me exactly the look that I wanted. So I thought, well, I've got my paint handy. Let's go ahead and dig into that again, and let's, get the brush a little bit wet. We'll put the paint on there. We'll go over these torn edges. It'll kind of absorb it and soak it in, and then I'll set those aside to dry. But I really like that it's got that metallic look to it. It's kind of black, it's kind of silver, it's kind of cool. So I'm very pleased with how these turned out. So I'm going to let you watch me apply this paint to the edges, and then I will talk about what I do next. My fabric pieces are dry now. I kind of had set those aside so that they could dry. So now we're going to start layering our clusters. Now again, sticking with the grungy theme, I feel like the less I think about it, the better these will come out. So I'm picking up a square, I'm picking up either fabric or a piece of paper, and I'm popping it on there. I'm trying not to overthink it. I'm using my hot glue gun again this week because last week it just made it so fast to make these, and that was a lot of fun to just be able to put them together. It didn't take too long. I didn't have to wait for glue to dry. So I'm using my hot glue gun once again. There were a few torn pieces of paper that I did not hit with the paintbrush, so I want to go ahead and add a little color to them. So here I'm using a brown marker to just add a little something to the edges. Alright, so each little square has one layer on it now. Now it's time to put the second layer on. And even though it's the second layer, it's actually the third piece of either fabric or cardstock. And this one, I've already gone in and done the fourth. I don't know if I did them all like that. I can't remember. Yeah, I don't think I did them all like that, but that one, I was just kind of feeling it. And so I ended up doing 4 of them. Now you're going to see this piece of pattern paper on my desk, and I end up using that, and I'm excited to kind of show you what I did with it. Okay, here we go. All right, so I took it, it's so thin and it's really fun to work with. If you don't work with yours very often and you have some, grab it and start working with it. You'll really enjoy it. So you saw what I did. I put some glue on it, and then I literally crinkled it up, and now I put it on top of this cluster. I didn't even really think about it. I just kind of crinkled it and popped it on there. And now I'm going to go ahead and put the 4th layer, and this would be one of those pieces that I had painted around the edge. And look how wonderful and grungy it's turning out. So I'm just having a blast making these. All right, each cluster has 4 layers now of either fabric and paper, and now we're getting into the finishing touches. And I have some black lace, and I'm going to be putting that, I think I have a piece for every cluster. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I do. So I'm going to go ahead and crinkle that up and then glue that onto each piece. And you'll see I was using my marker to press it down. That's just so I didn't burn my finger, and the glue doesn't stick to the marker just because of the kind of plastic that it is. So that's what I'm doing there. On some of them, I'm going to add some additional fabric. So I don't know if you guys remember, I made something grungy a little while back. Oh yeah, it was the grungy tassel. And I had a few pieces of scrap fabric around, and I thought, you know what, let's add some of those. Okay, now we're going to get to the really fun part. Now I'm going to embellish these with some metal pieces. I went thrifting, well, as you guys know, that's something I like to do, and I had purchased a bag of basically broken earrings. It was like they weren't necessarily broken, it was just like there was one earring. So they throw them in a bag and then they sell them. So I bought this bag of these earrings, and actually there was a bunch of other stuff in the bag. I didn't know there was even single earrings in it because normally I don't buy those. Now I get to use these earrings on these grungy clusters, and I'm so very excited to use them. I wanted to let you know that I ended up using gem tack to adhere the earrings to the fabric. And then when I was adding the pieces of chain, I did use the hot glue gun for that because I knew I could press the chain down into the glue. These are just about done, and on some of them I just want one more little touch. So I grabbed my little container of small shells, and I found some shells that I added to several of them. Friends, I'm pretty excited to show you each one of the clusters that I made this week. The theme was grungy theme, and so as you saw, I did all sorts of layers, and I started most of them with black cardstock, did some fabric, and then over top of that I put some paper that I had put some black, silver, like a nickel color paint on, and then I put some lace here, some black lace. And then I had these bunch of old earrings that I got at the thrift store, and I used many of them on these clusters, and I'm thrilled that I was able to use them, and it kind of gives it that grungy look. And then I had pieces of chain that I used, and I kept parts of it loose so it could kind of like move around. And then I wanted just one more little touch of an embellishment, and I wanted to go natural, so I just popped a seashell in there. This one, similar with all of the layers, and then put a anchor on a chain, and part of the chain is loose also. So this I think is one of my favorite ones. I think it came out pretty neat. So here's a little one, and I put this one on a flower shape, but then layered it with a book page and the other paper, and then the lace, and I put a little red yarn on this one, and a copper chain that dangles down a little bit, which I love, and then a little seashell. And this one, I got to use a nice big earring, so I think that's cool, and it's in like that bronze color, so I think that's pretty neat. And then I have a little seashell down in the corner. I like this one too. I'm pretty partial to that one. This one I like again. I was able to use a big silver earring. I hope you can see it. And you know, this little cluster of fabrics right here, and then a little tiny seashell. So I'm really happy with that. I'm happy with all of them. This one's a little bit bigger, and I was able to use a large size earring on this, which is fun. An anchor, some of this chain is loose too, and then a little seashell to top it off. And then this one, many layers of fabric and paper, a nice piece of an earring here, and then I put a real starfish right in the center on top of the black lace. Friends, remember the masterboard that I made? So here's another piece of it, and we're going to go ahead and turn this into a tag. This is sticking up a little bit, so I need to find my glue stick for it. I got that corner glued down, and now we're going to go ahead and use our crocodile, and I'm going to insert a eyelet here. I almost called it a brad because I always do that, but we're putting in an eyelet, and I chose a bronze color. I'm going to put satin ribbon and yarn through, so I've kind of twist them together so that I'm able to push them both through the eyelet at the same time. Well, friends, there is my tag. I hope you enjoyed seeing how I would use a cluster on a tag. You can do the same thing with greeting cards, in journals. Yeah, you can pretty much use them wherever you want to, embellish whatever you want. Well, thanks for watching. See you soon.